Hopefully my battery will last.
Yeah, I've got a few little Richard's on before in the chat room.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
I can't see the chat room at the moment. So my PC was stuck on working on updates 20% since 9 o'clock this morning. I hadn't noticed because I've been out. And now it's trying to restore the previous version and it's stuck on 22%. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen.
I think I had that one, so it lasted it took ages.
Remind me when we talk about builds, remind me to talk about my SP3 being docked with the latest builds.
Okay.
With updating.
Well, I think we're all on. So, Gary and Jason, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's very warm.
Yes, I know. Being British, we like to complain about the weather. I've been moaning how wet it's been, and now it's too hot.
I was talking to my American colleagues earlier, and he was making the point that the reason we all talk about the weather is because we all have the same weather at the same time. So it's quite a good conversation all round.
Yeah, I thought instead of our normal podcast, we could just talk about the weather for an hour.
Yeah. Yes, too hot, and then next week we can say it's too wet or too cold.
Yeah.
So it's very hot in here.
People don't get British heat because it's not like American heat. You go to Florida, 90 degrees, it's fine. 90 degrees in Peterborough or London, it's horrible.
Well, we're just not geared up for it, and we're just no air conditioning here or anything. It's just all we're just not designed for this. We don't know how to cope with it. It's the same when we have a bit of snow.
Yeah, it's unless you've experienced it there, the UK heat is always very humid. It's always a very wet heat. Whereas, when you're on holiday in, Portugal or Spain or wherever it might be, it's a very dry, kind of piercing heat. It's very different. But at the same time, we've had so much rain, just what was summer so far, that I'm trying not to complain too much. But yeah, with no air conditioning and whatnot. I've been in the air conditioning office most of the day, so when I actually got out to the car, it's like, oh, blimey, it's really hot.
So, aside from the weather, we're going to be talking about new builds. We've got, I think, about 8 since we last recorded, or actually technically 4, but
I do actually want to talk about the weather app.
Okay, talk about that. Weather app, we'll talk about weather app, new builds, groove improvements on other platforms. At last, we can talk about that. And what's the Surface Battery Gate? Is that the term we're using?
Yeah, I think so. Well, that's actually been the positive side about the Sunshine, because with solar panels, I can still use my Surface Pro 2 without being plugged in. That's good.
Well, Richard just say the great thing about Surface Pro batteries is their great value because they're free of charge. And he says, what's the difference between a dead battery and Microsoft's PR team? The dead battery has a positive side.
Very good, Richard. Very good.
Yeah, all at your expense. And we'll start with that. So we'll talk about the positive stuff for Groove and Builds. Let's talk about. Go on.
I was going to say, actually, not at my expense, unlike other people in the Microsoft world, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you alerted me to this, and Barb Bowman particularly. She's been doing a lot of work on this, helping people out on the Microsoft forums.
Yeah.
So I've got a Surface Pro 3 and I've not got any problems. So just describe to what the problem is.
Yeah, so, well, I was completely oblivious to this until Barb started talking about it. So it's kind of a good job she did mention it. And I looked through the forum and started to see what people were talking about. So I thought, well, so the way to find out, before I talk about the actual issue, is essentially you go to an elevated command prompt and run powercfg / battery report, and that gives you a report on your battery and will give you an indication of how long you're able to, or it gives you kind of connected standby information, when it's been charging, when it's been discharging, and estimates the battery life. The part of that report is a battery capacity report. And one of the very first things, actually, let me just quickly run mine because I've only got a snapshot of one part of my screen, I think, actually. No, I haven't. I tell a lie. So the symptoms are, and it affects the Surface Pro 3 models with a Simplo SIM PLO battery. And on my battery report, it says design capacity is 42,157 milliwatts. Is that right, Gary? Megawatts?
Yeah.
It's milliamps, isn't it? So it would be milliwatts. Yeah. But then below it says what the full charge capacity is, which you would expect to be roughly the same. Now, we know these batteries do, these lithium batteries do have a limited lifetime in terms of charging, discharging. We also know historically that it's always been recommended, don't just permanently keep these batteries charged, and you should, if it's fully charged, ideally stop charging it, even if it's still on mains. And digressing slightly, but one of my Dell laptops actually had a way of turning off the charge, it reaches 100%, and then because it's running on mains, the battery doesn't discharge, but it's not overcharging the battery. But essentially, yeah, so my design capacity at 42,000 milliwatts, my full charge capacity is now 14,000. So it's dropped almost 28,000, and I've only got a charge cycle count of 321. And it seems to be affecting most people that have got a simple A battery, although bizarrely enough, it only seems to start affecting people. People are saying it starts after their 1 year warranty is expired, but looking through it, there seems to be a commonality in terms of mine started dropping around May time, and that seems to be a kind of window, April through May, June, when people started seeing this. But unfortunately, I'm lucky I've managed to use mine for a couple of hours on battery at the weekend, but some people's is so low now, it's like 400 milliwatts, that they literally can't use it. As soon as they just disconnect it from the power, it goes off because it just hasn't got enough charge to run it. Now you've got a different battery in yours, haven't you? You've got the LG.
Yeah, I've got the LGC one, and I've just run the power report, and my design capacity is 42,000, and the full charge capacity is 44,000.
Yeah,
and that's consistent. It's like that. I've run that. It goes back to April like yours does.
Yeah.
And, it's not changed the full charge capacity. So in fact, it's gone up since April. It was on 41 and it's gone up to 44 now. And I'm not seeing any problems with battery life at all. And actually, just for comparison as well, I checked the Surface Pro 4 that I've still got here, and that capacity is 38,000 and full charge capacity 39,000. So what did you say your cycle count? So that's the number of times you discharge and recharge, is it?
I don't know if it's necessarily a full discharge or quite what, because my going against what's normally recommended, my Surface Pro 3 at work is docked all the time, and primarily because I need the Ethernet port because we don't have Wi-Fi. So mine pretty much spends its time docked, and the only time it really gets used off is when I'm using it at home. But I've always been really happy with the battery life, especially since sometimes I'm messing around with VMs and whatnot. But I think the most worrying thing is really that, and we talk about this all the time, don't we? You ring up for support and you generally kind of get stuck at first line support where they're just following a script, and their script says, if the battery is faulty, then it needs to be replaced, either under warranty, which some people have been fortunate enough to do. But the other people who are less fortunate are being either asked or have paid kind of $400 or $500 to get the battery replaced, and some people have even had the second battery, which is also a Simplo, start to fail as well. So it's really kind of disheartening, and I know Barbara's just getting very frustrated that there's literally no, apart from the standard Microsoft responses about following this normal troubleshooting tips, there's been no response from Microsoft at all. And you would have thought, with all the telemetry they get back, that they would see
this. Yeah, they'd see it.
Yeah. Now, Rod Trent picked this up. I know you posted about this as well, Ian. But Rod Trent picked this up on Supersite for Windows, and he managed to get hold of and included a snippet from an Ask Me Anything that Panos Panay did. And if I can quote, he says, "We built a great battery into the product. The battery on our Surface products is designed with some of the highest charge cycles for consumer electronic devices. This means that the battery can get charged daily, 5 days a week, for over 4.5 years, and still maintain 80% capacity. Now, I got my Surface Pro 3 in December 2015, so mine is 18 months old, give or take, and so that's a long way off 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And I think also there have been people reporting that they haven't necessarily kept their device plugged in all the time. They've just kind of been using it normally. But yeah, it's kind of worrying. I do want to give it the timescales. I do wonder whether or not this is firmware related, because mine gets to about 95% and then it reports plugged in, not charging. So I wonder whether or not it's actually a reporting issue, because I would have thought if the firmware sees that the battery charge is low, and it is going to switch off, because obviously Windows is designed to hibernate at certain intervals.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, the Surface Pro 2 had this, didn't it? My wife's did, where it wouldn't charge.
Yeah, it rings a bell. That. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were talking about it.
There's a firmware issue where the Surface Pro 2 just simply wouldn't charge, even when plugged into the main. So, on the one hand, I'm really hopeful that this is just a firmware issue. But then on the flip side of that, the poor people that paid out $400 or $500 on replacing a battery that potentially didn't, and it's just really disheartening that it's so difficult to get through to someone. I've noticed Panos Panay is very unresponsive on Twitter, and I'm not saying he should be, but you would have thought he would take some level of interest, or at least have someone like Donna, who is like a Surface insider, that is there just to field these kind of incidents.
I mean, my battery's on 504 cycle count, and I'm not seeing any changes at all. So obviously, we know it's that battery, but it could be the firmware with that battery. It doesn't have to be the itself.
Because the last firmware update we had was January.
Which I install every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every time we use a new build, reinstall it. Yeah. And everyone started post that. Not immediately, so it could be that, I don't know, some other operating system patch has gone into Windows, because this isn't just a Windows 10 issue, it's not just a Windows 10 Insider issue, it's basically, it affects anybody that has that SimPlay battery.
I wonder why two different batteries in two different models. Is it because I've got the i5 version? I think you've got the i7, did you?
Yes, I got the i7. Yes.
I wonder if that's the common thread. Why would they use two different manufacturers?
Yeah, I mean, whether or not the devices are physically built at different factories or different production lines, it's difficult to say.
Actually, likewise, the one of the other things people don't realise is actually the limited battery production which is out there. It's one of the reasons that people like the Tesla and all these big factories produce batteries, because there's not actually that many people producing batteries, and quite often manufacturers will use multiple different battery manufacturers to actually supply them. Actual ODMs will source their batteries from suppliers. You see that with Asus and Asus all the time. You can't be guaranteed what battery you're going to get. So I guess that might be the reasoning. And it may be they've chosen to do it on specific models, it's got specific, and that could be to do with the peak power outputs of the batteries as well. That can have a difference. But I suspect it's just literally what supplier was available, had batteries available at the time.
Yeah, I mean, Richard in the chat room is saying that maybe they're in sort of full-on damage control mode and not saying anything until the lawyers have had their say, which has happened, I think, in the past where we've had these kind of issues.
I did see a tweet, and I can't find it at the moment, from someone at Microsoft saying we are aware and we are investigating.
Yeah, I think I was just trying to get on the site. I know Windows Central had posted something. I'm just trying to see if I can find.
Well, InfoWorld also posted about this as well, and linked back to my article.
Yeah, and I think there is. Yeah, I think Windows Central actually linked back to that same story. But what's frustrating is, again, just waiting for Windows Central site to load up with all its advertising. Oh no, we go to the web page. Come on.
No, my PC is now working on updates 45%.
Oh god, so we might be able to call you back on the normal PC in the next hour.
Before the end of the show.
It's interesting. So I don't know if this could well be related, but I think I've mentioned on the show a few times that when my PC Surface Pro 3 stopped at home after doing our Skype call, I leave it plugged in, it was always blue screening overnight. Now that had stopped, but on the last 3 builds, which I'm sure we'll talk about, it's got stuck at preparing to install updates at 84%, and it just sits there and sits there and sits there. As soon as I undock it, it can be a couple of minutes, or last time I waited 2 hours. As soon as I undock it, it carries on.
That's odd.
Yeah. Most bizarre.
I do think there's either potential lockups in some of these issues, because I notice one of the things I find on my desktop PC is if I do the update and uninstall the NVIDIA driver before I do the update, it always goes through, but if I leave it on, it will hang.
Richard's sort of I'll include link. Listeners can check out the chat room and they'll see Richard's chat there. But he said about Apple having a similar issue with the iPhone 5 and ended up replacing all the batteries and refunding people even out of warranty period.
Batteries are really difficult things. I mean, the technology behind batteries these days is really advanced, and sometimes I think that they're actually putting stuff out to manufacture before the science is even ready for it. So I mean, we are going to see some leaps and bounds in battery technology over the next few years, which will be really interesting.
Well, the basic issue though is really what you're saying, Jay. It's okay if you get it replaced in the warranty, but it's when you call up just as a user without aware that other people are having these problems, you call up the support and then you just get told you're paying 400 quid for a new battery when it's out of warranty, and it actually, it's not a fault that you've got. It's a generic fault, but you don't know that, and Microsoft don't say it either.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like anything, companies do have problems, and it's always you judge them based on how they handle that. And you kind of expect that support. They can't. When the first couple of people ring up, you're going to expect that it will be handled, following normal support processes. But when you've got an 8-page forum, which was I think 6 pages when I joined, and apart from the first couple of responses to Mark's going, just follow the troubleshooter, people responded saying, I followed that, it's getting worse, and posting history. Post the same reports I've been posting. You just kind of think somebody really needs to kind of take notice.
Yeah.
And I work in a sport environment, and we have situations where emails will filter down going, by the way, we seem to be getting a spike in the reports of this, and don't handle it using normal channels, take the person's details, and we'll collect the information.
And they have got a pretty good tool in there with the battery reports. It's pretty clear cut.
Yeah, you think telemetry would be getting back on that. I mean, I know, and Barb's quite rightly saying that the Microsoft people need to respond on the forum, and that's not happening, but it never happens. It's just that the whole support system from Microsoft, the first level, is because it's not actually owned by Microsoft, it's all third-party stuff, training points. And I think that is a general problem, really, on the whole way Microsoft handles support. They need to get closer to it in a lot of ways. And I know it's something they're aware of and something they're looking at. But it's at the moment it's always been that as Jason White says, they run the script, and if it doesn't fit in the script, well, we don't want to know.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully, specifically if it does just turn out to be a firmware update, I do hope these people are offered a refund. But even then, I think I'd be a bit disgruntled, because these devices are lovely devices. They're really expensive, and I've paid out for that device. I don't want a refurbished one. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, that's the problem with non-replaceable batteries.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate. So I bought my Surface Pro 3 from John Lewis, and the retailers not available. And so I got automatically an extended 2-year guarantee. So if it does turn out to be a fault, and I can at least take it in John Lewis, and they'll replace it and fix it free of charge, assuming that Microsoft don't do a recall or something on them. But I'm one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
I think actually, sorry, just quickly, Chris Walsh actually made a really good point that the problem is these are really expensive devices, and it's so easy to think I won't bother buying the extended warranty, but I know the Microsoft Store warranty isn't available everywhere in every country, but I think it is a lesson that in some ways, if you are buying these really expensive high-end devices, while the company making them, you should hope that they would do the right thing by you. It really is worth considering taking out that warranty, particularly if you look at the history of Surface Pros. I mean, has there been a Surface Pro device that hasn't had some kind of issue?
Yeah. Although I suppose the counter argument to the warranty thing is we're still in the EU. We're covered by EU warranty regulations, which means we get, I think it's 3 years anyway.
Right.
So I think that they've got to, if there's a general fault, they have to replace up to 3 years.
Yeah.
So I think that there are, I mean, obviously that might change, but and I certainly would agree extended warranties in the States are very useful, and non-EU countries. But I mean, this sounds like it might be a firmware issue.
Yeah, I do think it might well be.
Yeah, and hopefully Microsoft will respond at some point. Like Richard said, he's had really good support from the Surface when he's had issues with chargers and things. So hopefully they can respond. But it's just the I think what Bob's issue was with it, just a total silence on the issue. That's the problem, real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think once a forum post gets up to kind of 6 pages of people reporting the same problem, there needs to be some kind of internal escalation process.
Yeah, and even if they just put, we hear these comments, we've seen them, and we're investigating them.
Yeah.
But like Richard was saying, once the lawyers get involved and someone flags it up and says we could have a potential legal issue here, then I suppose it goes into shutdown. Then no one says anything then until it's all been cleared, and that could take a while.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll gladly accept the Surface Pro 4 in report.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we do have, and we should say, so I was just going to say about new builds, but we're not saying this is not a build related issue, is it? This is affecting.
Yeah, it's Windows 7, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10 GA, or whatever we call it these days.
It sounds like firmware. So it's either actually a battery fault, which would be a nightmare, or it's firmware like the Surface 3. Was. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we have got new builds now. Blowing through Gary's build count by a massive margin. I think we had more builds last week than Gary predicted for the entire rollout process. But
I think it was for the last week of obviously.
Yes.
I mean, we discussed this last week. Actually, just wanted to follow up on last week because we were talking about my Edge problems on mobile. About 20 seconds after I got off the podcast last week, I got an email through from someone saying, "Look at your settings for accessibility and see if your Zoom setting is setting there."
Right.
And lo and behold, it was. Now, I don't remember ever setting that. And a couple of people I've spoken to have also said they didn't set it, but somehow during the upgrade it got set. Well, that's what I think anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I think it was formatting fault, because that was set to about 230%, which is a bit weird figure. I can't imagine why anybody would set it to that. Setting that back down to 100% and everything starts formatting properly.
Right. Well, at least you've got it resolved.
That solved virtually all the strange formatting I had in Windows 10 going up Edge and one of the other apps as well. So that's definitely good news. It's something to look out for. Just ask the question though: why would the accessibility settings format incorrectly? Surely they should be taking account of those. They take account of the screen density settings in the formatting, but why don't they take the accessibility ones into account? Anyway, that's another matter.
So, like I said, we've got I think technically it's 3 builds since we last talked, or 9 builds if you count the PC and mobile. So we had 14388. Did we talk about it last week? I don't think it.
Yeah, I think that's the one we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
Or did that come out just afterwards? It's so hard to keep track of them now.
They've been moving so fast.
Yeah, so I mean that's really good thing.
That is coming up.
Yeah, and then the issue list gets smaller and smaller. So no, we didn't talk about that. We talked about 85.
So that must come out afterwards.
Yeah, so in fact we have 9 builds since we recorded last week. So which is what you predicted, Gary, just for the whole period, 9 builds.
Yeah.
And before we talk about
I wasn't expecting the hustle force.
No, none of us were. I don't think we're all well under. Before we talk about that, I did come across a problem, and I had this a couple of times. I think I even talked about it on the show in the past, about where the build would start to come down and then something would go wrong, and then it would either stop offering the build, or it would just get to so far and then have to start again, and just in sort of a cycle of that. And then a reader also had the same issue, and I sort of sent him the email in solution. I thought, I'll write this on the blog so for anybody else who has this. So if your download gets interrupted, and it could be because you've got disk space, although it should warn you, but it can, once it's started downloading, it doesn't obviously check then. So if something happens to your disk and fills the space up, you could have an issue. Or if your build gets interrupted, so if you've got it on a tablet and you go out and it doesn't cleanly restart downloading again, you can end up with this state where the temporary files are effectively corrupt. It tries to install and doesn't work, and I've had it sometimes where it just says retry, and sometimes where it just doesn't offer you the build at all. So I did post a solution for that. I think we've mentioned it before. It basically involves clearing out the temporary folder where the downloads go in software distribution. So I've just got a link for that in the show notes as well, in case somebody has that.
Microsoft don't have a troubleshoot with that one because it's such a common fix and it doesn't seem to break anything.
Yeah, and I think there is an update troubleshooting, but I don't seem to have had the option of doing it. I'm sure in the past, I don't know where it's gone. I'm sure in the past I've had this thing where you would have a troubleshooting button, but I can't seem to trigger that state. So it just comes up really trying. So anyway, that's the trick is you basically stop a couple of services so it freezes, or you reboot. You stop a couple of services so it frees up the folder. I think it's the software distribution and the Windows Update service. You can delete a software distribution folder, restart your machine, and it'll download again. So
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So once you've got that, so there are 2 builds then, or let's say, so the 2 builds were released on Wednesday last week. I think they were 14.388 for PC and mobile, and I don't think there were any major changes. Any major changes to those builds? Couple of fixes and things. And then since then, we've also had 14.390 and 14.393.
Yeah.
So Jason, have you got any of these builds installed?
Yes, yeah. So hang on.
As he coughs.
Back. Yeah, so I've been installing all the builds pretty much now. On my Surface Pro 3, I've kind of stopped using the VMs. But so yeah, so installed the builds last week. I really haven't got any complaints. They've been absolutely rock solid. My machine goes to sleep when I want it to. It reboots. It comes back on when I want it to. I haven't really had any major app crashes. I think it's been, for me, they've been pretty much done and dusted. Really, I think some of the later builds had some app issues, which they updated the apps.
Yeah.
And obviously the Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book had some camera driver issues, which I noticed Don said is fixed as of today.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of my Surface Pro 3, it's been working absolutely great.
Yeah, so same here on PC builds. I've had absolutely no issues with them. I got a tweet back from Windows Insider the other day when I tweeted out that I was updating 6 devices at once. So I've got all my PCs basically running on the Insider build now, on the latest one. And as you say, Joe, it's rock solid. Other than one edge issue, which I know a couple of people had, where edge suddenly restarts, but that only really happened once for me on one PC. What's been less successful has been the mobile build for me. I'm running the latest one on the mobile, and although it's much better than it was last week, which was that's primarily to this scaling issue, it's still locking up quite a few times on me. It just completely locks. Touch doesn't work at all. The only way out of it is to do a power off reset to try and get back. And the other thing I found is that Wi-Fi stops working quite often as well. I know there's this bug with Bluetooth, and I do use Bluetooth a lot, where sometimes they're saying if your Bluetooth switches off, you or disconnects, you can get into a lockout state, which you're investigating. And I'm wondering if it might be that.
Yeah, so I've had that Wi-Fi issue on the previous few builds. It disappeared, I think, on the last one, which was 90, I think. But yeah, I'd got Wi-Fi connected, but it says no internet. The only way to
I've seen that. Yeah,
restart the phone. But it's interesting that they call out the issue with Bluetooth, because I've been having that issue for a little while now. And actually, if you follow the link, which I'm just trying to see if I can find, that Donna posted, they actually report a build number. There's actually quite a few builds.
Yeah, it's been on and off for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I actually don't think they were aware of it until they started building up on Twitter as a problem.
Yeah, so because I've had issues. Well, I've said I've had issues with, particularly many builds ago, where my phone would just lock up and it thought it was still connected to Bluetooth, even though I was away from my car and the car was off, so there's no way it could be connected to my headset. And things have been slowly improving, but I did notice, because they changed the way that the Bluetooth toggle works. It used to be if you tapped it up to settings, and they've changed it now so that it turns it off and on. So I was kind of tapping it without remembering, and then the phone would kind of lock up for 2-3 minutes, and then it would kind of spring back to life. So it's kind of nice to know that they've acknowledged this as an actual issue.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to see. So let me see if I can get through to look.
Well,
yeah, so it's since build 14370, which is obviously, it's quite some time ago.
a while ago, yeah.
But I can't say for definite that my lockups have been to do with Bluetooth, but I use Bluetooth a lot, so it's quite likely that is the case. But I certainly have got into the situation quite a few times where it's completely locked up. And I've also, I mean, you don't know it's locked up. That's the thing. I was using the phone, put it down, it appeared to be okay when I put it down. Came back about 2 hours later and it was locked up and I missed loads of calls and text messages. So for me at the moment, it doesn't feel ready for prime time.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I tend to just leave my Bluetooth on because my 930 just sits on a wireless charging pad, so it doesn't really affect me having everything kind of all bells and whistles switched on. But like I said, I noticed switching it off had caused a freeze. I hadn't had a complete lockup for quite a few builds, but it did used to be really bad. So I know there's been some discussions whether or not the 14393 is the RTM build or general availability build, but I think with that issue, I don't see how it can be. I know they could do a cumulative update to fix it, but I suspect it's probably a bigger issue than that.
Yeah, I wonder if Bluetooth is actually a firmware issue.
Yeah, it could well be.
So needs to be done on that one. The other issue I've got at the moment, and this is what I was talking about the weather app, and also applies to Wonder app. I've now got a situation where both of those apps won't open. It's open, then close immediately. And I solved that. I had that problem, I think I mentioned last week, with the news apps. And I solved that by uninstalling the news apps and reinstalling them. But both of those apps don't offer the uninstall option.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. What you really need is that reset option that's on the desktop client.
Yes, yeah. It would be really nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while, haven't we?
Yeah. So but there's no way on mobile to actually get around that, because obviously you haven't got anything, you haven't got even something like PowerShell you can run to reset them.
You've got to
I think
reset.
Yeah, yes. So the only way I'm going to do is actually do a hard reset and reinstall, I think. But it's a pain that's there, and it makes you wonder why there's even those restrictions on those apps. And the sort of weather app is not really what you think would be a built-in app. There's no reason why it should be part of the OS. OneDrive you can understand, but weather app just seems a bit odd.
Yeah, it really does need a quick reset to save you having to go through the rigmarole of resetting the whole phone.
Yeah, agreed.
I found this mobile build pretty stable, but as you know, I'm not using it for phone calls. I've got a data SIM in there, so I've got Bluetooth on because I've got the band paired to it, but I'm not seeing the same. I'm pretty sure I'm seeing worse battery performance in the last two builds, but I've got this nice little battery monitor app, and it seems to be last time that it takes a day after the initial install before the battery settles down. And I know we kind of anecdotally seen that, but looking at these graphs that I've got now, I think this is pretty much the case that after the build, the first day after the build, the battery performance is worse than the second day.
Yeah,
I've seen that, but maybe understandable with modern battery management.
I've often wondered whether or not there are still background tasks that carry on running after the build is installed, because I don't know if you see, but after the cogs, it goes to that thing where it says running, migrating your data, and I think it says, is it steps 1 of 9? I think it is. It starts off at, but my phone stops updating after about step 3 or 4. I think either that or
maybe there's other steps running in the background.
Yeah, I mean, either those steps are so quick. I mean, I don't sit there and step my phone updated. I like no ready sometimes, but it may be that maybe those last few steps are so quick that I haven't seen it, but it does seem to stop them. And also, although not so much with the 393 build, but my phone always feels really hot for the rest of that day, normally after installing a new build. And then, like you're saying, after 24 hours it settles down. And I'd even got into the habit of, after a new build is installed, after an hour or two, I actually forced a restart of the phone. But I noticed in this last build, on the mobile builds, which you've done, particularly called out battery draining issues on a number of old, what were originally Windows Phone 8 handsets. So it'll be interesting to see how you go.
I mean, Holiday Boy in the chat room saying 950 XL is okay on latest build as well for battery. But he's saying Cortana started to ignore him. But that might be a personal thing, not a bug.
Yeah, I know I've had issues with Cortana not working on mobile until I've actually used it for the first time. I've actually gone in, so I've got pinned to the home screen, actually gone in, and occasionally it's actually asked me just to confirm who I am and log into my account. And after that, it started working. But what's really bizarre is, so I've got nicknames set up so I can say, hey Cortana, text my mum, and it will text my mum. But with my wife, I say text my wife, and it says, yeah, who do you want to text? And say my wife. Okay, I'll text your wife. Like, well, why did you get that the first time?
Yeah.
What I found is it completely ignores me saying how important I am, but reacts to television people saying other things, which is really weird. It doesn't seem to recognise my voice.
So, I mean, these builds, I've got to say, especially the PC builds, have been absolutely solid. And I think the latest one, the 393 that just came out this week, I don't think there's any known issues, was there, apart from the blue screen with the Surface Pro 4, which they fixed as an overhead driver.
I definitely think the PC builds are really primed on. They feel rock solid to me.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about is whether or not they will want or need the Windows, PC, and mobile builds to actually have the same build number. Because I guess I've always assumed that they would do.
Have previously, yeah.
Yeah, but if the desktop build is ready at 14393, will they carry on compiling builds for both of them? Because they don't have to be signed off at the same time.
No, they don't. They probably will be, but they don't have to be.
I suspect what they'll do is they'll just get the point updates like they did with the November update.
Yeah, so if they did the cumulative updates, yeah, which is a possibility. I mean, one thing that's been interesting is and I was chatting with Richard about this. So while the Xbox isn't strictly tied to the PC build numbers, there is essentially a core of Windows at the heart of every Windows 10 device now. So, for example, we got 14390 on Friday, but then the Xbox got 14391 over the weekend.
Yeah.
So what I need to check, because I think there was an update or a couple of updates for the Xbox One preview program released either today or over the last couple of days. So it'll be interesting to see what build number that's on, because I suspect that will give us some insight on what's going to be.
Yeah.
Although I think, I don't know if it might have been you, Ian, or Josh mentioned that actually the Xbox update is actually due out later than 2nd of August, but I thought they were aiming for them all.
I thought they were, but then I think I've seen a couple of people saying maybe not.
Right.
Not the Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, the Xbox preview program has had some pretty big leaps forward. I know we'll probably talk about it in more detail, so I won't stay on it for too long. But yeah, I mean, that has been making massive leaps forward as well. But so it'd be interesting to see if that's on 14394 or something.
Yeah. I think it's 14393, certainly like Gary said, on the PC side, I don't see any problems putting that out to the general public. There's one bug that it did fix that I know has affected a lot of people, and so far, up until this latest build, Microsoft had knowledge, and that's the USB iPod issue.
Yes, yeah. So a number of people, I think, I can't remember names, but I've seen people complaining about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it's nice to address.
Yeah, so it wasn't a known issue, but I think for the last 2 or 3 builds, people are having problems, especially setting up new devices, and that's been fixed now. So I think this is probably okay to release, but it's whether they'll want to put another couple out. In some respects, they've been great getting builds out rapidly and everything else, but I would imagine they'll want at least a few days for insiders to really push a build before August 2nd.
Yeah, I know. I think Mary Jo said that they were looking internally to sign this off by July 20th. But I mean, with the way these software really gets released these days, there's no reason why they couldn't take this down to the wire, 27th, even the 28th, and then let insiders, run with it over the weekend.
I know we talk about terminology all the time. The old RTM was supposed to be a GA idea. So obviously, I assume people know what they mean, but obviously, RTM was released to manufacturing. And the reason behind that was because we used to have to put discs out and for releases or actually get them out to the OEMs and ODMs, which we don't have to do now. It's all over the air stuff. So there's no reason for that. That used to be sort of like a 2-month almost window before the actual release. And there's certainly no need for that now. General availability just means we'll put it out of the air and everybody gets it.
Yeah.
I suppose the risk is...
And I know that from a marketing point of view, they want to put out this anniversary update. And obviously that will be an update on a day, but they could actually release 2 or 3 more updates sort of days after that into general availability to fix anything they pick up on early on.
Yeah, I mean, my interest, when I talk about RTM, is a bit like the original release of Windows 10 and the November update. But what's the build number that then doesn't change? Because then you've got the currently .0. The cumulative updates affect those last 3 digits rather than the actual build number. So that's the one I'm interested in. And like you say, delivery of these things is changed now. I certainly can't imagine they'd want to deploy a build and then have to deploy another build to
No, I don't
so many
think so.
devices. But certainly, yeah. I mean, once they get to the point of cumulative updates, then I think that'll be the one to go. My prediction is still 14400.
Yeah, we'll stick with that one. If we're going to get, I mean, we could get to another couple of builds really coming. That's what. While this seems fairly stable, there's nothing to say we won't get a build tomorrow and one on Friday. It just seems what they don't probably want to do is push it out, say Saturday, which they have done now once, and then it tends to be a bit of a known issue, and they've only got a couple of days to fix it. That the insiders find the known issue, and but then even then they could still put it out on Tuesday next week, and then push out a cumulative update to go with that at the same time. So it's not the end of the world, but I would have thought they want insiders to have a bit of time for it to bake. But we didn't get. I'm just trying to think. The original launch, it was only a few days, wasn't it?
Yeah, because basically, normally with these things now we've only got a few bugs left.
Yeah.
What we've been saying about how it's ready for prime time. Maybe there are a few little glitches left, but there's nothing major that they're working on at the moment. We wouldn't think there would be. So there's no reason why a few days isn't enough to test it. Unless they regress. They just to be better, getting better at that, avoiding regression.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see a problem around sort of 4 or 5 days to test it.
No, and also as Gabe mentioned, towards the end of the original release of Windows 10, we're now switching to production servers for deployments. That's when you have to have your Microsoft account linked as an insider. So I would suspect with these non-watermark builds, which the last 4 or 5 haven't had that watermark, that these are actually coming down through the production servers anyway.
Yeah.
So once they've got a build deployed and ready on the update servers, it's really just about ring fencing who gets it, and all they've got to do is just kind of open the floodgates. And I'm pretty certain, and I'm sure we'll see many people go, this is how to get Windows 10 anniversary update now, posts as Microsoft trying to throttle that rollout.
Yeah. So next Tuesday is the release, isn't it? That's the 2nd of August when we get that.
Week Tuesday, isn't it?
Yeah, do something.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I thought it was the 2nd.
It's probably northern terminology this week, next week.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So next Tuesday would actually be the 26th, wouldn't it? So it's the week after. Yeah, so there's
listening to this, of course.
Yeah, of course, depends on what it is. Yeah, so I would guess we'll get probably at least one build this week and one build next week, then another build this week and at least one next week, which will be then maybe we get to the 14400 then.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised to see another build this week, and Donna certainly hasn't ruled it out.
Oh.
But I think they are so close. I say the Xbox preview program has come on leaps and bounds a lot of the issues that are starting to drop out now. So it's been working really well.
Yeah. Now they've been working on a few app updates, and
one of which I think you're very happy about.
Yeah, which. Groove Music has finally got an update on Android and iOS. Now, I wrote the post on it. I think I did the post last week, and I've talked about it on the show. When I moved to Android, the only thing I really missed was Groove. I got it set up perfectly on my 950. I got the playlist and everything else, and then they've added some new features like Your Grooves, so the automated playlists, and I've been really happy with that. Come to use the Android version, and as I said a couple of weeks ago, it was almost garbage. It was really just a rebranding of the Xbox Music app, which itself is 2 years old, and it crashed a lot, and the features weren't there. And it's so bad that I've been using Google Play Music. But yesterday they released a new version of Groove for iOS and Android, and I'm pretty pleased to say so far it's been looking really good. I've not had any crashes and not had any syncing issues, which were the two big ones. And while Your Groove's not there, the other features all are there. And whether they've actually using some cross compiler like a Xamarin type project, or whether they're just making the project look like the Windows one, they've done a good job. It looks very similar. Features are very similar. also it links in with Android, you know, quite nice to lock screen stuff as well. So they've done a good job, and it was usable. It's not quite as advanced as the Windows version. There's some features in there about artwork and things like that, some options which aren't available, but it does look good and it works, which is a good sign.
Yes, yeah, definitely a very good sign. I know it's something that a lot of people indeed have been asking for, because it's, you know, Microsoft have, you know, they've drawn their line in the sand. They are going to support their services on any device that you want to use. I think it's for mobility of experiences. So it has been unfortunate that the Groove app on iOS and Android has been lacking behind. I was a bit disappointed that it's still only iPhone.
Yeah, that's the one thing I thought was really a bit of a strange decision.
Yeah, and it would be nice. I mean, it seems a bit odd that they wouldn't want people to be using it on or that they think people just use it on an iPhone, and it may be that they've got telemetry to that. I mean, obviously we've no idea what the user base is, but yeah, it does seem a bit disappointing, especially since they're all about responsive design.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things they call out in the release notes for the Android version, is that it's a responsive design and works on small Android devices and large Android devices.
Yeah, although it's not tablet ready according to the store, but maybe that's coming.
I mean, they do say that there's more features coming.
Yeah, they are. I know they're working hard on it at the moment.
I get the impression that they've got the features into the Windows version, and they're now really focused on the Android version and the iOS version. But like that scaling on the iPad, the X2 is a bit odd, but it's a nice app, and there's a widget and everything else. And it's probably not as rich as the Google Play Music app, but it's the only Groove is the only service that is cross-platform, truly cross-platform. And you can get, I think you can get Android or Google Play on, but you can get Google Play on iOS, but you can't get Google Play on Windows unless you just use the browser. You can't get Apple services on Windows. So really, the best, I suppose, Spotify, I would say, is a good cross-platform service, but you know, Groove is there as well, and I think it's a definite improvement anyway. I much prefer it. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do now. It was pretty clear cut that I would just ditch Groove, but I like having, now I've got all my music, you know, in OneDrive and synced up and everything. I think I'll probably stick with Groove now.
I've been using Groove quite a bit this week. Been working a lot outside, using Groove to play music while I've been sorting it out. It's been really good. The one thing that obviously which also might push you to Groove is the background music on Xbox as well, isn't it? Because there was something about not supporting Spotify out of the box.
Yes, I think it does support it on the preview program. Groove does work as a background. But I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, I haven't actually used the Groove app on Xbox purely because I haven't got the subscription anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing with the OneDrive, though, is you can just upload your stuff and it's available.
I think Jason obviously raised the very important point the other day on Twitter, was the whole thing about family passes.
Yeah, that's...
They've got to get a family pass on Groove, otherwise they just can't compete with either.
Yeah, so, they do need to get that.
With Apple Music, it's just really... And I know there's a hell of a lot of legal work to do to get that and try and get it across markets and things like that. But other people have done it. So the people in the music industry who make those deals are obviously expected to make those deals. So I think someone just needs to bite the bullet and actually go ahead and try and do that at Microsoft.
Now, there's a couple of other app updates I want to mention as well. I don't know if you've tried this, Jason, but the movies and TV app on Windows 10 has been updated to film and TV if you're in the UK, and they've added remote control for playback if you've got the Xbox Preview program.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a nice little feature. I know it's something that we used to do with the old Smart Glass app.
Yeah.
The one thing I do hope, so with the updated Groove Music app on Xbox One, I hope we're not going to lose the video playback feature.
That's exactly what me and Jason, me and Gary were discussing last week. We were going to ask you, but I don't think the app's actually there yet. Is it the new app?
It's been difficult because sometimes, so for example, the updated movies and TV or films and TV app, the best way to get that was to go through the preview app, and then there was like a task, download this app, let us know what you think of it, watch videos and give feedback. It was very difficult to find it in the store. But the problem is, on the last few Xbox One preview updates, the preview app actually doesn't work.
Right.
So it's been very difficult to kind of track down the updated app. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. Obviously, without a group pass, it's not something that I would see anyway.
But yeah, I hope they don't get rid of the videos, because that's, and I think a couple of times we've tweeted the various people, but we've not seen a response yet.
So, and I've been putting this out. And
I suspect it will be going.
Yeah.
I suspect it'll disappear. But that's just my feeling. I don't have any anything to back that up with. And another app update that looked pretty good. I don't know whether I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, or in fact it's a couple of months ago. In fact, Plex released a beta of their UWP app for Windows 10. Very nice looking app. So currently, or prior to this app, that they do have a Windows 10 app, but it's actually the Windows 8 version. And the beta app is now available for all users. It's been rolling out, and it's replacing the Windows 8 app. So if you've got the Windows 8 version, it replaces it with the UWP app. And it's a very nice looking app. It's got sort of a nice smooth transitions between screens, and the layout's improved. It feels more like a Windows 10 app. The scrolling is up and down instead of left to right, like the old app, which reflects pretty much how Windows 8 switch scrolling methods. So a much improved user interface and a nice smooth app. And it's a UWP app. It's currently not available for mobile, but it will be. Plex say so that at some point that will come to mobile, and it will replace the app in the Xbox store, I guess, as well. So very nice looking app. I know that people looking at different platforms to replace media center type systems, and Plex is definitely a good one of those. I think the app itself is £3.89 to unlock. You can test it for free, and you need a Plex server, which you can read more about in our Windows 10 book.
Yeah, which probably needs a big update now.
Yes, it probably does. Yeah.
So yeah, is there going to be an anniversary update to the book?
Maybe a second, not a first. Yeah, so that's very nice looking. And also something else for people that still wanting to use PCs for media stuff is MB Server's now added XML TV support. So we used to talk about this quite a bit in the old days, XML TV. A good way of getting, so that was EPG data, and actually probably quite important at the moment, because we've got another one of those EPG outages at the moment for media center users.
Yeah, I saw that, and I almost typed a tweet out and then deleted it. I was going to tweet you back going, well, if there's no one in a forest and a tree falls, does anyone hear it?
A question on that: is the Xbox TV guide?
I checked it a couple of days ago and it was okay.
Okay, so yeah, because they do be using the same data source now, so it's a bit odd.
Yeah. I suspect it'll be like the usual story where it goes off for a few days and eventually it comes back. But as we've discussed many times in the past, at some point that guide data is going to go away and not come back.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, if it is using the same feed, then you would hope that wouldn't be the case. I mean, maybe once Windows 7's out of mainstream support, perhaps. I just would like, and I know they've said that they're not going to bring, or they've temporarily put on hold the recording features, DVR features of the Xbox One, but I would really like them to revisit how the guide or the channels are done on the Xbox One, because it would be so nice to be able to hide channels that you don't want or need, because it's so confusing. Like I said, I've got channels listed more than once, because we pick up multiple sources around here, and it just makes it really hard and so user friendly. Because I bought the tuner in the hope that the kids might use it, but they just send it switching over to TV, because it's just so confusing to find. And it does work so well, because on the TV guide with the integration with other apps, they'll pick up new movies on Xbox, Microsoft Movies on Blinkbox. So it's a really nice way for it to work, but it just
Yeah, I must admit, I got the tuner and very, very rarely use it. It is simpler just using the set-top box, and that's maybe what Microsoft looked at the telemetry and just seen the number of people use it for live TV and thought it's not worth bothering with recorded TV.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine there's a massive user base for it.
And there's a good discussion if you look in the chat room about using alternatives to Media Center. There's still different ways of doing it. I think MB and Plex and Media Portal, those three are probably your top three options. It's a shame we never got that vision that we really wanted. But then when you look at Windows 10, it does do everything that we had that initial vision 10 years ago of an all-in-one system. And in fact, everything. When you think the Xbox is running Windows 10 as well, so everything really on Windows 10 is running as a complete system that we wanted. It's just not quite implemented how we envisaged 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I think I tweeted a few weeks ago saying, if you're working on designing a replacement for Windows Media Center, then you're doing it wrong, because I think it's changing so rapidly, with success of services like Netflix and Amazon Video and catch-up TV services. I really don't think recording TV is the future.
No, well, I don't think. I think you're right, and I think the only issue we've got is that there are some really nice services out there like the Sky Q system. They're just really expensive, but that's probably. Well, I think we did discuss this a while ago, but it is a separate discussion in its own right. Your own PC system, where you have the initial cost of the PC, was basically free once you get everything set up. But nowadays, everything seems to be a paid subscription service.
Yeah, I mean, although having said that, the Freeview boxes I think are a great alternative, and they work really well. And yes, they've got recorders in them, but it's also so simple to scroll back through the guide and pick up, on-demand TV.
Yeah. There's a lot of good options out there. It's just that initial vision, maybe a discussion for show 600, what we expected when we first launched and when Gary first talked. Things have come a long way. But then in other areas, things haven't gotten the path that we expected, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the service that needs to be built, and I know the media companies would fight this because they like their branding and they like their advertising and revenue streams. But what we really need is a consolidation service where you can pick your favourite programs, and it just, instead of having to think, I need the ITV player for this, I need iPlayer for this, you literally just pick up your favourite programs and it just plays them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what Sky Q does. But that's a fairly hefty subscription that will do that combination of over-the-air recording through the satellite and downloading content through streaming. I think it does pull those together.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pay extra for that.
Yes, no, absolutely. And of course, we've got messaging everywhere now in Skype.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, almost. I've just been using the preview app tonight when we were testing Skype or doing some Skype. So yeah. You're still on there, and it's working all right.
It's actually been solid. I mean, normally when I run Skype previews on my phone, they die after a few seconds, so this has been quite good.
It's been working pretty well. So I think that's just about all we've got time for this week. Thanks to everybody joining in the chat room. Carry on chatting there. It's some good discussions in there. So Gary, what we got on Fascinating Tech? Where can we find you?
So you can find me at Gary WMA on Twitter. That's Gary with 2 R's. And Fascinating Text, we're getting the next issue together. Jason's actually volunteered to help guest column as well. So, it's going to be good. We've got a really good giveaway. Got about 300 quid worth of health equipment to give away in the next issue, so that's going to be worth looking out for. And some quite cool reviews as well.
Excellent stuff. And Jason, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Database Jason. Maybe at some point in the near future on Fascinating Tech.
Yeah, we'll have to get you. We've not got you. You've not done anything on TDL for a while, have you?
No. My free time tends to get gobbled up pretty quickly. So
yeah, absolutely.
Working shifts.
Yeah, and you're too busy to still start your Xbox previews. So thanks for joining this week. We'll be back next week to moan about the weather instead of moaning about it to be too hot. We'll probably be moaning about the rain. We'll have new builds to talk about, maybe some app updates. You can email me ian@thedigitallife.com, IS6 on Twitter. So until then, I'll see you there.
Yeah, cheerio, bye-bye.
Bye.